right, what is going on, everybody? Hope y'all are doing well this evening or this morning, depending on where you listening in around the world. This is going to be a somewhat laid back stream, but it is definitely not for the faint of heart. So I know there's a couple of streams going on right now. I know over at Teapot, SKC is debating Trey. Shout out to those two. So it's probably where a lot of the guests, or let's say a lot of the fans and subscribers are at the moment. But hey, definitely catch this on the replay when you have time. But in any case, shout out to SKC because he is the main culprit that inspired this particular stream. He did a stream earlier today talking about a particular picture that's going around social media and the like, and it's causing a lot of stir, if I do say so myself. And excuse me, SKC definitely did an awesome job on his stream and everything. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick up where he left off earlier today. So now I got the time to bring out the mad scientist. So before we get started, I want to also give a shout out to Vision. He donated $10 today through the PayPal. I just saw the information as I came home. So shout out to you, Vision. Arigatou gozaimasu. And definitely, if you want to donate to the channel and all, especially for the Black Rodents podcast, feel free to do so at your own convenience. Also, later on in the chat, you will be seeing links from Battissimo in regards to the new audio platforms that we will be putting our podcast on, and that's Spotify, Anchor, and Amazon Music. So please feel free to subscribe to those particular channels when you get the chance. Also, we do have paid subscription to these audio platforms. So if you love the content and like to help contribute to the Black Rodents podcast, feel free to join the subscription. It's only $5 a month. It would help for a great cause. So arigatou gozaimasu. And shout out to Let's Be Frank. Good to see you, sir. Okay, so let's get right into it. Now, again, what spurred on this particular stream, again, you have to blame SKC because he was the one that brought out the mad scientist in me. Because we're really going to tackle some things from the STEM variety. What is STEM? Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Mathematics being one of my favorites. So, I am first going to talk about a scientific method to kind of help give the backdrop of what this conversation tonight is going to be about. Also, too, I'm not going to be too long on the stream because I do need to take care of some business in about an hour or so. But later on, if people enjoy the content of this stream, I'll definitely try to do like an after stream, hopefully later on tonight, if not tomorrow for sure. But let's go ahead and get started. So, one of the scientific methods, and we talked about this before, and we're going to talk about it again. It's one of my favorite scientific methods, and that is, nature versus nurture. So, what is the concept behind nature versus nurture? Well, to put it in more simplest terms, it's an argument of genetics versus behavior. And this is used a lot in a lot of the social science and biologies of the world. And what I like about this method is it really gets down to the nitty gritty. You look at species and you determine if some aspect of these species is based on nature or is it based on nurture? Is it based on behavior or something that is involved in their environment, or is this all genetic? That's where nature versus nurture comes in. So let me first give you examples, one for each. So we'll start off with nature. So let me get rid of this picture and let me bring up Exhibit A for nature. All right. Shout out to Friedman's Journal. He actually gave me this inspiration for this particular anatomy, and that is the killer whale. Now, when you think of Shamu, or if you've been to SeaWorld, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Shamu, Free Willy, or just simply a killer whale? Well, for the most part, the killer whale anatomy is very unique. You have a particular species that, for the most part, they make up of just two colors, black and white. They're mainly famous for this white little patch they have behind the eyes. This is called an eye patch, and is actually one of the most significant features of a killer whale. And besides that, they also have large dorsal fins, which classify them in the dolphins family. And depending on what type of region you're in, most of the time these animals could be found simply black and white. Now, granted, if you do go to some of the colder regions like Antarctica or the Arctic Circle, sometimes the killer whales over there could be black and yellow, or you could say a little bit brownish and orange. And that's mainly because they're now dealing with colder environments. But for the most part, this is the complete anatomy of a killer whale. This is how they look. This is their traits. Now, the only difference between a male and a female, males have larger dorsal fins and larger flippers. Outside of that, they all look the same, no matter what. So that's nature. And shout out to Honey Barbecue, shout out to Atrism and Free Zone Lou. Good to see you, bros. So that's nature. Now, what is nurture? So we're going to use a different species to kind of give the anatomy of what nurture is about. And let me pull up the picture here. Just one moment. All right. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Where is it at? Let's see. Oh, I just had. I think this is it. Let me see. Nope. That's too small. There's usually a larger one. Let me see. Okay, this will have to do. This will work. Okay. Honey Barbecue says, what's level 3? Do I win a prize? No, Honey Barbecue. This is actually how Battissimo tracks participation on the stream. So whenever you communicate in the chat and all, you earn points, which helps you to level up. So right now, Aiza-sama is the leader as far as in the chat. I think right now, since I've used Battissimo, he has over 10,000 points. So good luck catching up to him. But in any case, here is an example of nurture. This is a humpback whale, a female humpback whale, and her calf. So why do I use the humpback whale as an example of nurture? So humpback whales have a particular behavioral pattern that they utilize throughout the year. So during the spring and summer months, the humpback whales travel up north towards the Alaskan waters and most of the coastal areas of North America. The reason why they travel up there during that time is because the plankton and krill and a lot of the small fish migrate up to the warmer waters up there to feed. Well, same thing with humpback whales. They follow the food source and they go up there to feast on the smaller fish. Now, come the fall and winter months, these same humpback whales will then migrate down south towards warmer water. So they usually come around areas like Hawaii or South America. The reason why they travel to warmer waters during this time frame is for breeding purposes. They go there to procreate. So most likely this picture you see here of a mother and her calf was probably taken somewhere between Hawaii or South America. Okay, so you're probably asking, okay, Sigma, how is this nurture? Well, the reason why this behavior is considered nurture is because not all humpback whales travel to the north during warmer weather and travel south during the colder months. Some humpback whales actually stay in the northern waters for the whole year. Likewise, you have some humpback whales that stay in the warmer waters like Hawaii and South America for the whole year. So that is simply not nature. That is nurture. It is a learned behavior that some animals utilize and some of them don't. So again, if you want to know nature, think of Shamu and the killer whales. If you want to think of nurture, think of humpback whales and their migrating patterns between the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. All right, any questions so far in the chat? And shout out to Sinku Ishigashi. Konnichiwa. Okay. All right. So that's the basis of nature versus nurture. And I wanted to set up that foundation before we get to the nitty gritty of this particular stream. So, it was brought to my attention. Like I said, you can blame SKC for this. But it was brought to my attention that somebody in the black sector of YouTube made the mention that race is not a social construct. Let me repeat that again. They tried to make the argument that race is not a social construct. That somehow race is tied to biology. Yes, Free Zone, I'm going there. They brought out the mad scientist tonight, so I'm going there. So I said, okay, you want to make this assertion that race is not a social construct. That somehow there is some genetic marker in the human genome that determines if you come out black, white, Asian, Latino, Indian, Pakistani, Eskimo, you name it. So I said, okay, let's put this to the scientific method of nature versus nurture. Now, keep in mind as we break this down, most scientists, when using nature versus nurture method, they try to see if something starts off as nature. See if there's enough evidence to prove that it is there in the nature side. If there's no evidence to confer that it is nature, then by default, it has to fall under the side of nurture. Free Zulu, Darth Sigma won't be making an appearance, but someone else will later on tonight. Yeah, you'll definitely want to tune in for this. So again, like I said, we usually try to start off with nature. See if there's enough evidence to warrant the fact that yes, this is something that happens in nature, is very consistent, it's a genetic trait, therefore it is nature. But if there's no evidence to show that it is nature, that is natural, then by default it has to fall under nurture, which means this is a learnt behavior. This is something that deals with social science, something environmental. So, all right, now that we laid down that aspect, let me go ahead and give you all the evidence. So here's the first evidence that we're going to look at right now. All right. So this was a peer research study done by Oxford academics, and is actually part of the Department of Evolution, Medicine, and Public Health. The topic of this peer research article says race and genetics versus race in genetics. A systematic review of the use of African ancestry in genetic studies. Now, I'm not going to read the whole article, but I am going to hit up on some key points that are found within this article. So let's first read the abstract. The abstract says, social scientists have long understood race to be a social category invented to justify slavery, and evolutionary biologists know the socially constructed racial categories do not align with our biological understanding of genetic variation. The completion of the Human Genome Project in 2003 confirmed humans are 99.9% identical at the DNA level, and there is no genetic basis for race. Let me just read that one more again. The completion of the Human Genome Project in 2003 confirmed humans are 99.9% identical at the DNA level, and there is no genetic basis for race. You know what? I don't think the people towards the back end have heard what I just said. So, you know what? Master Ugwe, could you read this statement once again so that way it's very clear for everybody?
No problem at all, said the Jones. I'll be more to that. The completion of the Human Genome Project in 2003 confirmed humans are 99.9% identical at the DNA level, and there is no genetic basis for race.
Thank you, Master Ugwe. All right. So, any questions in the chat? All right. And again, this is a peer research article done by the Department of Oxford Medicine. You can read this information for yourself. So let's go to another section that talks more about the Human Genome Project. This is during the introduction side. It says, as a taxonomic term, race defines an informal subdivision of subspecies which are physically and genetically different. However, the species, Homo sapiens, cannot be further subdivided into subspecies which are physically and genetically different. Thus, for Homo sapiens, The species and subspecies are one and the same. Shout out to you, J.J. Wilson. Us. In 2003, Phase 1 of the Human Genome Project demonstrated that humans populating the Earth today are, on average, 99.9% identical at the DNA level. Again, there is no genetic basis for and there is more genetic variation within a race than between them. In addition, genetic isolation, sharp boundaries, and distinct evolutionary lineage of races do not exist. Thus, the idea of a race as a genetic category was presumably put to rest. The continued acceptance of race as an appropriate biological category would have to be predicated on data indicating there are genes distinct to one race that are transcribed in one race, but not another, and human genetic variation is not continuous. This is distinct from all differences in allele frequencies due to mutations in a given family's genetic lineage, as will be discussed later in this manuscript. So again, I am not going to read the whole article, but I'm just going to touch on some few points that are mentioned in this pure research. And the next one says, yes, I just want to read this part. There is no genetic basis for self-identification, meaning one's genetic makeup is defined at birth and subsequently modified by mutations resulting from environmental factors. So again, this says there is no genetic basis for race. So at this moment, what does that mean? Okay, so if we just proven through scientific research that there is no genetic basis for race, then that means race cannot be categorized as nature. Or just the term race cannot be categorized as nature. It is not genetic. Therefore, it has to fall in the category of nurture. Is a learned behavior, which means somebody had to teach you about the concept of race. How in the hell is that difficult to not understand? Yes, Laughing Dog, I'm going there. I'm going there. They brought out the mad scientist tonight, so it is about to go in. But I'm not done yet. That's just one particular article. I got another one. If you didn't believe me there. Break up here real quick. JJ said, what motivated this stream? You can thank SKC for this. He did a stream earlier today, and I said, you know what? I'm going to piggyback off his stream, and I'm just going to go from it from a scientific method. So when you see Dr. Frankenstein right now, that's the mad scientist coming out of me. Okay, next article. This comes from Harvard University's The Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. The title of this article is titled, How Science and Genetics Are Reshaping the Race Debate of the 21st Century. So, again, I'm not going to be reading this whole article because there's a lot of stuff that's in there. But I'm just going to touch on a few points in this article that highlights the research from the human genome. So this first section here, race in a new era of human genetics research. In 2003, scientists completed the Human Genome Project, making it finally possible to examine human ancestry with genetics. Scientists have since tackled topics such as human migrations out of Africa and around the world. And it's not just scientists who are excited about human genetics. Widely affordable at-home ancestry test kits are now readily available from companies like 23andMe, Family Tree DNA, and Ancestry. For $99, around the price of a romantic dinner or a pair of Nikes, a customer can receive an analysis from 23andMe indicating they are, for instance, 18% Native American, 65% European, and 6.2% African. So I'm going to skip this section and I'm going to get to a section here that really gets into it. Yeah, laugh it out. I was astonished too that this particular information came straight from Harvard. So they may be seen as left, but somebody in that department is not completely left. All right, but this next section is new findings in genetics tear down old ideas about race. It says estimating our ancestral composition down to 0.1% seems to suggest that there are exact categorical divisions between human populations. But reality is far less simple. Compared to the general public's enthusiasm for ancestry testing, the reaction from scientists has been considerably more lukewarm. Research indicates that the concept of 5 races does to an extent describe the way human populations are distributed among continents. But the lines between races are much more blurred than ancestry testing companies would have us to believe, which is true. A landmark 2002 study, now check this out. This was even before the Human Genome Project was completed. A landmark 2002 study by Stanford scientists examined the question of human diversity by looking at the distribution across 7 major geographical regions of 4,000 alleles. Alleles are the different flavors of a gene. For instance, all humans have the same genes that code for hair. The different alleles are why hair comes in all types of colors and textures. Master Ukwe, could you read that for the audience, with your voice?
Not a problem, Jost. A landmark 2002 study by Stanford scientists examined the question of human diversity by looking at the distribution across 7 major geographical regions of 4,000 alleles. Alleles are the different flavors of a gene. For instance, all humans have the same genes that code for hair. The different alleles are why hair comes in all types of colors and textures.
Thank you, Master Ukwe. Okay, moving right along. In the Stanford study, over 92% of alleles were found in 2 or more regions, and almost half of the alleles studied were present in all 7 major geographical regions. The observation that the vast majority of the alleles were shared over multiple regions or even throughout the entire world points to the fundamental similarity of all people around the world, an idea that has been supported by many other studies. Now check out this next paragraph. If separate racial or ethnic groups actually existed, we would expect to find a trademark, alleles, and other genetic features that are characteristic of a single group but not present in any others. However, the 2002 Stanford study found that only, listen well, 7.4% of over 4,000 alleles were specific to one geographical region. Furthermore, even when region-specific alleles did appear, they only occurred in about 1% of the people from that region. Hardly enough to be any kind of trademark. Master Oogway, if you can, because I think the people in the back are not hearing me, could you read that particular paragraph again?
Not a problem, said the Jones. However, the 2002 Stanford study found that only 7.4% of over 4,000 alleles were specific to one geographical region. Furthermore, even when region-specific alleles did appear, they only occurred in about 1% of the people from that region. Hardly enough to be any kind of trait.
Thank you, Master Oogway. Thus, there is no evidence that the groups we commonly call race have distinct, unifying genetic identities. In fact, there is ample variations within the races. Let me read that one more again. Thus, there is no evidence that the groups we commonly call race have distinct, unifying genetic identities. In fact, there is ample variation within race. Ultimately, there is so much ambiguity between the races and so much variation within them. Y'all, check this out. That two people of European descent may be more genetically similar to an Asian person than they are to each other. Master Oogway, could you read that last paragraph for the audience? Could you, Master Oogway?
Not a problem, said the Jones. That's why I'm here from the line of the truth. Ultimately, there is so much ambiguity between the races, there's so much variation within them, that two people of European descent may be more genetically similar to an Asian person than they are to each other.
Thank you again, Master Oogway. And again, let me just post that link once again so you all can go read this for yourself. Don't take my word for it, because this article also has peer research articles that you could go and read that information. So here's the next section, and this is where the pro-blacks, the white supremacists, and all the other race loyalists, this is where they don't understand science. So check this out. The divisions between races are doubtlessly blurred. But does this necessarily mean that race is a myth, a mere social construct and biologically meaningless? As with other race-related questions, the answer is multidimensional and may well depend on who you ask. In the biological and social sciences, the consensus is clear. Race is a social construct, not a biological attribute. I repeat, in the biological and social sciences, the consensus is clear. Race is a social construct, not a biological attribute. Today, scientists prefer to use the term ancestry to describe human diversity. Ancestry reflects the fact that human variations do have a connection to the geographical origins of our ancestors. With enough information about a person's DNA, scientists can make a reasonable guess about their ancestry. However, unlike the term race, it focuses on understanding how a person's history unfolded, not how they fit into one category and not another. In a clinical setting, for example, scientists will say that diseases such as sickle cell anemia and cystic fibrosis are common in those of sub-Saharan African or Northern European descent, respectively, rather than in those who are black or white. And in fact, I don't have this article up, but maybe later on I'll share it. But there was another article that says you can't even make the claim that hypertension and heart disease is a black only issue. Because, yes, even though African Americans are more likely to have hypertension than white Americans, even an African straight from Africa is less likely to have hypertension than either African American or white American. So again, where is this notion that race is not a social construct? I tell you. Anyway, however, even if scientists agree that race is at most a social construct, any cursory search of the internet reveals that the broader public is not convinced of this. After all, if an Asian person looks so different from a European, how could they not be from distinct groups? Even if most scientists reject the concept of race as a biological concept, race still exists undeniably as a social and political concept. Oh my God. Let me read this again. Even if most scientists reject the concept of race as a biological concept, race exists undeniably as a social and political concept. Okay, I got 2 more paragraphs and then we'll be done with this article. The popular classification of race are based chiefly on skin color, with other relevant features including height, eyes, and hair. Excuse me. Though these physical differences may appear, on a superficial level, to be very dramatic, they are determined by only a minute portion of the genome. We as a species have been estimated to share 99.9% of our DNA with each other. The few differences that do exist reflect differences in environments and external factors, not core biology. Importantly, the evolution of skin color occurred independently and did not influence other traits such as mental abilities and behaviors. In fact, science has yet to find evidence that there are genetic differences in intelligence between populations. Ultimately, while there certainly are some biological differences between different populations, these differences are few and superficial. The traits that we do share are far more profound. Okay. Let me get a sip of my drink first. One moment. Okay. Now, anybody in the audience that somehow believes that race is not a social construct, please step forward. please make yourself known in the chat. I mean, I just gave you ample evidence, including peer research articles that just said that there is no genetic basis for race. There's not even alleles that are specified for a particular race. So therefore, how can you possibly try to tell me that there is no that race is not a social construct? Right, altruism. The whole white and black thing was meant to be a form of classification. Exactly. Just like when you try to tell people or certain demographics that slavery at its earliest conception was not based on race, it was based on economics. Oh boy, they ain't ready for that. But again, I want an individual to show me a peer research article that has debunked the Human Genome Project. I want you to show me a peer research journal or article that clearly shows that in today's modern time, there is in fact a genetic marker that determines if you are born as black, as white, as Asian, as Latin, as Indian, as whoever. If you can show me that and that it is backed by many scientific communities that verify that this is true, hey, I'll be the first to admit I'm wrong. But let me just tell you right now, good luck. The Human Genome Project, as was shown, it was completed in 2003. It is now 2022. So 19 years later, we have yet to have a peer research article or a peer research method that has debunked the Human Genome Project. So again, good luck for the naysayers out there. Okay, so that's one element from SKC's stream that I wanted to hit on. And now there's another element I wanted to talk about. So again, if you haven't seen SKC's stream, please go and review that. The basis of his stream was based upon a picture that, just to kind of give a synopsis of it, is a picture of some teenagers that were pretty much taking a group picture for their prom. What got everybody up in a bunch about this particular picture? All the women were of the Caucasian variety, and all the men were of the black variety. That's what's got everybody's panties in a bunch, if you want to say. But they don't want to talk about how interracial dating and interracial marriages is starting to become commonplace here in America. And not just in America, but just worldwide. Just worldwide. There's one element that, in my opinion, has been the biggest equalizer so far in the history of man. In fact, I know what I'm about to say next is going to be controversial, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Technology has been the biggest equalizer, greater than that of the Bible. I'm going to say it again. Technology has been the biggest equalizer than that of the Bible. And I have at least one evidence that actually proves how much technology has been an equalizer, not just throughout the world, but pretty much just when it comes down to connecting with other people, especially when it comes down to dating and marriage. And this is my last article for tonight. Thank you, Laughing Dog. Again, shout out to SKC because he was the one that inspired me to do this stream. Um, I definitely would have. I definitely would have done went up to the stream to talk about and everything, but I was at work and had some things to take care of. So I said, when I come home, I'll definitely do a stream and talk about this from a scientific perspective. But thanks for that, Laughing Dog. Salute to you. JJ Wilson says, no offense here, technology changed human society profoundly over the last century. Exactly. And I am a spiritual person. But even I will tell you, technology literally has connected the world in so many ways that, just gonna be honest, I've yet to see the Bible do so on a large scale. So here's the article I'm going to share for tonight. And I'm going to post it here in the chat. So feel free to check it out for yourself. But let's talk about it. All right. Technology driving diversity in dating. This was published back in 2018. So roughly, 4 years ago. It says, new research suggests that online dating is increasing interracial marriages. The theory goes that dating websites and applications have enabled millions of connections to happen between individuals who would otherwise never have met. Want some proof? According to a 2017 study by Jose Ortega at the University of Essex in the UK and Philip Hergovich at the University of Vienna in Austria, online dating is the main driver behind the increase in interracial marriages in the US. And I have that particular study. We're not going to go over it tonight. Maybe on another stream we will. But I'll post that particular research in the chat so you guys could go see it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Before the first wave of dating sites like Match.com emerged in the mid-90s, people found mates that were loosely connected to their social networks in some way. For example, people married a friend of a friend, coworker, or someone they met through education. However, today, the second most common way for married couples to have met is online, and more than a third of relationships that end up in marriage start on a dating site. I'm going to go to the next paragraph. By giving people the opportunity to draw from a far more diverse pool than that of their existing social networks, online dating is enabling more interracial relationships and marriages. Interracial marriage, which was banned in some parts of the U.S. until 1967, i.e. Loving versus Virginia, has been on the rise since before the emergence of online dating. However, the rate of increase accelerated when the sites became popular, jumping significantly in 2014 after Tinder launched in 2012. It is intriguing that shortly after the introduction of the first dating websites in 1995, like Match.com, the percentage of new marriages created by interracial couples increased rapidly, says researchers Ortega and Hergovich. Other factors have also played a part. For example, the proportion of the U.S. population that is white has decreased over the years. However, the researchers note that this reduction is not enough to explain the huge increase in interracial marriages. Okay, so you're probably asking, all right, Sigma Jones, what are you saying from that article? I have been saying this since I have started making videos on this particular platform. Technology is the dividing factor between you being a tribalist and you being a traveler of the world. Technology is literally that equalizer. Those who are able to take advantage of it are able to far exceed more in life and go further. Those who do not take advantage of it, unfortunately, they're also struggling. So when I hear certain demographics that say things like, "Oh, you gotta stay loyal to your race," you know, you can't let the race die out and everything. Y'all about to make us all go extinct. Look, you do realize the Amish are still around, right? Even the Amish have understand that they can't override technology. Excuse me. The best thing they can do is to allow those who don't want to be a part of their tribe, let them do their own thing in the world. The Amish understood that. But unfortunately, you still got some demographics, and I kid you not, you got some demographics that are wishing for the collapse of society just so they could get a mate. Let me repeat that again. You have some demographics who are wishing for the complete collapse of society just so they can get a mate. That tells you right then and there, they do not comprehend how much technology is an equalizer. If you become a student of STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, do you excuse me, do you not comprehend how much farther that can get you in society? No, STEM is not the end all be all, but a student of it will definitely be more respected in society than somebody who has a degree in liberal arts. Yes, I said it. I've said it. There comes a point in time where you have to embrace change. Technology is the weapon of change. This is why I love studying history, because you can look at history and pinpoint what sort of innovation, what sort of technology that was used that has allowed society to progress further into the future. What's going on, Trey? Good to see you, sir. Like, you can go and look at World War II, and you can see that you could talk about you know, the atomic bomb, how inhumane it was and everything. Yes, I agree with you. But one thing you cannot deny, that atom bomb changed human civilization. Yes, it did. And shout out to Video Game Lover 58. Good to see you, sir. Laughing Dog says, I've yet to have anyone prove to me any race was ever completely deleted. There are still 6 million Mayans last I checked. Laughing Dog, you bring up a good point. You bring up a great point. But before I end this stream, I literally heard somebody say on another YouTube stream, Trey is my witness, A-Truism is my witness. I have literally heard somebody say on a stream that they believe blacks are the superior genes, or in other words, saying the superior genes come from black people. So I said, okay, all right, let's go ahead and put that towards the scientific method, nature versus nurture. Let's take the morals out of it. We'll get to the morals. Let's just use the scientific method, nature versus nurture. Okay, black genes being superior than any other gene. Is that nature? Well, anybody with common sense will tell you, no, it is not superior. How do we know this for a fact? Because not every black person you meet is going to be superior in everything they do. Just like this whole notion about, black people just have the genes to play basketball and everything. Dude, that is not natural. It's simply not. Because not every black man is going to be able to dunk a basketball or be able to run and throw footballs and everything. Not every black person can do that. Excuse me. I can tell you right now. Just one. Okay. I can tell you right now. I have an older brother. And I always look up to my older brother. Me and him are just solid. You could think, us having our father in our lives and being able to have a lot of camaraderie between each other. Me and my brother are solid. But I'll tell anybody, when it comes down to athletics, my brother is more gifted than I am. This dude could excel in almost any sport you could think of. Basketball, football, baseball. He was just naturally gifted. And surprisingly, he's went on to become a physician assistant. But I'll tell anybody, when it comes down to sports and athletics, no, my brother is more athletically gifted than I am. In fact, I'll go even further and say, if my brother just so happened to decide one day he wants to become a samurai, trust and believe he would also excel in that training. So again, you cannot make this argument that black genes are superior when it doesn't occur naturally. So because of the mere fact that it doesn't occur naturally, you can't simply say it is nature, which means it has to fall under nurture, which then means somebody implanted that thought in your mind to believe that black genes are superior. There, I have said it. So now we go back to the moral concept. So you do realize that when you make the assertion that black gene is superior, you're pretty much saying the same thing as Adolf Hitler. You do realize that, right? But let me get out of there. let me get out of there. Yeah, that's a whole different subject for another day. Another day. But just something to ponder on. So again, if that's the basis of the stream I wanted to get out tonight. The fact of the matter is there is no genetic marker or basis for race, and technology is why, and I'm going to take a term from Trade MBD, shout out to you. Technology is why people, not just black men, but people are able to go free. They're able to connect with people from all over the world that share the same mindset and same cultural factors as they do. Whew. All right. All right. I've been on this for about an hour, so I have calmed down, got it out of my system. Now I need to go ahead and go take care of some other business. So, with that said, thank you all for listening in, and thank you all that will listen in on the replay. Just want to get it off my chest. Definitely, leave your comments in the comment section and all. And again, prove me wrong. Show me the scientific research and pure articles that says that there is a genetic marker for race, that it is not a social construct. If you can show me that, and I'm able to verify it from other resources and all, then hey, I'll be the first to make a stream and say, hey, I was proven wrong. But again, that's your job to do. I've already laid down the evidence of, yes, race is not a genetic marker. It's a social construct. So now it's your turn to show me the evidence. So, and again, technology is the biggest equalizer known to man. Just in my honest opinion. It is why people are able to connect with other people around the world, learn other cultures, become a student of the world, and then have mastery of themselves. So, just a thought. Thank you all for listening in. Until next time.